My guest today here on Raising Private Money, he has raised $120 million in private money. So if you're interested in private money in that world, you don't want to miss any of this. Well, for the last 20 years, he has spent building a vertically integrated farming business. Now, you might not know what that is. You're going to learn all about it. In the early 1990s, he started with a small vineyard and winery development in the Napa Valley of California. Well, this initial taste of farming ignited his new passion for agriculture and investing in it. So, as I said, in the past 20 years, the name of his company is Bravante Farm Capital. His company has required over $175 million in agricultural assets, and it includes the following, such as citrus, table grapes, wine grapes, stone fruit, and pistachios. Well, before founding Bravante Farm Capital, he spent 10 years as president in a real estate private equity company. And then prior to that, he was the president of American Real Estate Group, which he led the managed liquidation, listen to this, of $15 billion in real estate assets. And that was the then failed American Savings Bank. Well, since you are interested in private money, you don't want to miss a second of this episode. You're going to meet my special guest, George Bravante, right after this.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Well, hello, George. Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
I am so excited to have you. So, George, as we were talking before we launched the show, we have really two audiences here on Raising Private Money. We have all those real estate investors like myself and yourself that are interested in raising private money for their real estate deals because, frankly, we don't want to be in the situation that I was in 2009. I went to the local bank to get my deals funded. I had been using the local bank for 6 years and I was cut off with no notice. So here in this world of private money, of course, we make the rules. Instead of asking for a mortgage, we're offering a mortgage. So we want to talk to those people. And then we also want to talk to part of my audience that perhaps might be interested in being a private lender and just making passive investments, getting really high rates of return safely and securely. So I want to dig into your experience first, George, about how it is you started out raising private money for real estate. How did you start with private money? How did you learn about it? How did you initially start raising private money?
I had a little bit of money to start with because the American savings transaction, I got a payout out of that. So I had a little bit of my own money. So, I went to people that I knew well, talked to them about how I'm investing side by side with them, and slowly started buying, smaller assets and just building a program. And, to me, my secret to success is I do what I say. I take care of my partner's money better than my own. And that's kind of how it happened. People trust me. I've always come through for them. Not every deal's been the best in the world. We win a lot more than we lose. But, even when things go bad, I hang in there and fight to the death to the end. And, you just build a reputation if you want to do this kind of work. And, it's rewarding. It's rewarding too. Having a following of people that trust you and look up to you as somebody they can invest in is a very gratifying kind of situation. So, that's how it started.
Absolutely. I can relate to that. Well, you just said something like really, really important. And that is, first of all, do what you say you'll do. I tell people all the time, if you just do what you say you'll do and you show up when you say you're going to show up, you just left the majority of the crowd in the dust, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so you're right. The reputation, building a reputation, et cetera. So let's say that you're talking with a brand new real estate investor. I mean, for goodness sakes, you've raised $120 million. That's a large sum of money for most people, of course, starting out to raise private money can even think about. My very first private lender started with $250,000 with me, was my first private lender all the way back in 2009. So for someone that's never raised private money, they're wanting to start, what advice would you give them?
I mean, I think the first thing they need to do is come up with a very well thought out program of what they're going to do if they get the money, so that they have a plausible transaction that is well underwritten, so they have a deal that will work. First of all, you need a deal that you're pretty certain is going to. I wouldn't try this stretching or the first deal I did. I mean, it was a home run kind of, and generally everybody's first deal is a little better, seems like to me. So I mean, the first thing is you need something you can sell to people, and and really have your heart into it, and know and really have confidence it's going to work. And the rest is a lot easier. And then you have to have the confidence to approach people and sell them on the idea, and you got to have passion about what you're doing. People sense passion, and if you're passionate about what you're doing, you're committed to it, the money will come. It takes a while though. You're not going to raise a ton of money the first year. It's going to take a while to build reputational capital, psychic income with your investors, and it'll happen. You need to really be committed to it, know what you're doing, have the time to do it also. So if you're starting out and you're working another job or something, you need to make sure you can actually fulfill your obligations as a general partner or owner. So,
Well, you just said a bucket full of gold nuggets in a very short period of time. So just to reiterate and unpack a little bit, what you said was, first of all, you said you got to have your program together, right? You got to have your program together. What is it that you're offering? Since we're not asking for a mortgage, we're offering a mortgage. We're offering a program for people to invest in. And I just want to go ahead and do this, George, before we get into your agricultural space, which actually I find fascinating. So speaking of when you're raising private money, now everything that I do in real estate primarily is single family houses. So we call it one-offs. Like we have a private lender or a couple of private lenders that's funding a single family house. They may have an after repaired value of between $300,000 and $900,000. So, I tell people in your world, you're like raising large amounts of money for your fund, your capital fund, for much larger deals. So what I practice and what I teach in the single family house space is know your program. George, I want to go ahead and give this away to the audience right now. This is a ebook you can download, 7 Reasons Why Private Money Will Skyrocket Your Real Estate Business and Help You Build Incredible Wealth. Here's the deal, my friend. If you want private money, put yourself in the driver's seat of your real estate investing business, download this free guide, and this will teach you the program that you need that George was just talking about, that you're going to share with people. You can download this money guide at jayconner.com, www.jayconner.com/money guide. Again, that's jayconner, jayconner.com/money guide to get on the fast track for private money. Another thing you said a moment ago, George, was confidence. You said the word confidence. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, if a person is not confident in what they're offering, what they're teaching, then if you're not sold on yourself, who else is going to be sold on you?
absolutely. There are the off chance people that have confidence that are totally worthless though too. You got to be careful with those guys.
For sure. And so you said confidence and knowing your program. And another word you said, I don't know, as I recall, another guest on my show, and I've had over 500 episodes, maybe 600 now. When it comes to and so this is so important. I'm so glad you said this word. When it comes to attracting, and I say attracting on purpose, because I'm not running around chasing, begging, selling, trying to persuade. I'm just sharing what I am passionate about. And that's the word you use, passionate. I mean, being passionate about what you're doing automatically attracts people into what you've got going on. And then another phrase you said, you got so many nuggets here that we're going to put in the show notes. Another phrase you said that I love is, I think you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might have been a different nuance to it. Did you use the phrase reputational capital? And what does that mean?
Well, I mean, reputational capital is, when you have a great reputation, it's like money almost, right? It's like capital. People want to get a piece of that action because, they understand that their chances of making higher returns and doing better are with high reputational people that have done it over and over again and been successful. I mean, there's a lot of people have the one hit wonder, I mean, it's something else to do it for 25 years and consistently produce results. So that's how I think about it.
Yeah, well, I love that, reputational. And so that's another phrase, another nugget in the show notes. I don't think I've had another guest actually use that phrase, reputation. And you're right. I mean, it's like, what do you have more valuable than your reputation and your relationships?
Nothing.
Particularly when it comes into this space. So I really appreciate those phrases. All right, so let's move on to what you are so passionate about. And boy, I bet you've got a story on this. So as I said, in the intro, I mean, all the way back in the early 1990s, you started with this small vineyard. You had a winery development in Napa Valley, and then that thing grows into all this stuff I mean, I never thought about pistachios being an asset, but it sounds like pistachios.
Hey, pistachios are really good. I mean, they make a lot of money and they're very valuable. I mean, almonds they were the rage 5 years ago and they're overproduced now, but the pistachio thing is good right now.
Ooh, I tell you, my daddy, who turns 90 years old this year, by the way, my daddy, that is his favorite thing at Christmas. And he don't want to mess with shelling them. He just wants a bag that's already shelled so he can go to town. So George, we want to hear the story. Take us back to the beginning. How in the world did you get all passionate about the agricultural investing space? And then we want to hear about how people can get involved. But take us back to the beginning of this story.
The winery thing was kind of just an offshoot kind of, when American Savings ended and I made some money on that deal where I was getting married and my wife worked for Hal Barnett of Barnett Vineyards in Napa Valley. And we went up there to deliver a document actually. And I looked around and I said, wow, we should do this. And we bought a property like a week later and we've had it for 30 years or more. And we make great Bordeaux style wines and small deal, 2,000 cases a year. We've done it together. Our kids are not involved in it, but they grew up inside of it. So anyway, anybody likes growing grapes in the Napa Valley. I mean, it's a wonderful place, beautiful, climate's amazing. Everything's great there. The food's great. So, then I was still in the private equity business and we were in the mobile home industry accumulating mobile home parks. And we had this crazy idea to get into the retailing side of selling mobile homes inside of our mobile home parks. The biggest seller was in Visalia, California, where I still live today. So we were in Newport Beach. We didn't like it. Kobe Bryant lived on our street with some Russian oligarchs. It's horrible. And just from a logistics point of view, security and crazy people everywhere. There's only 8 houses and it was like a freak show on this one little cul-de-sac we lived on. And so anyway, we decided we'd go back to Napa, but we stopped in Visalia for a year. And we bought this big retailer there of mobile homes. And there was a great little school there called St. Paul's School. And we stayed there for the school for our 3 young boys that we had, 3 young sons that we had. And the deal junkie that I am, that was when, this is like 1997, 98. And the citrus thing was on its ass really bad. I mean, it was just terrible. And I bought my first ranch, almost got it for free from a lender. And, I started seeing how much money this stuff makes, the cash flow characteristics. And, you know, and I mean, I bought that ranch, I think, for $1,000 an acre. It's now worth 35,000 an acre, you know,
Nice.
20 some years later. And we bought another ranch and another ranch. Then we bought a cold storage and a packing house, farming company, sales company. We got in the table grape deal, bought a big ranch system from a famous guy. So, you know, and I mean, the thing I mean, I just didn't realize this, but, you know, living around the growing season, you know, it's lucrative, but I mean, you're creating these beautiful assets. And, you know, I'm a guy that could probably be happy doing anything, but, I'm just built that way. If it's mine and I'm doing it, I'm all in, totally with it. So, and, you know, we've been doing it for a long time and I love doing it. And I got a great, I mean, we have 1,000 people that probably work for us and we got like 97% retention over 17 years. You know, so I mean, we just have a great all around program. I mean, things are tougher today for like they are for everybody. Rates are up, inflation is crazy, our inputs are high, the grocers are fighting us. But you know, I mean, you live around the growing season, it's great. You know, if you had a bad year last year, you might have the greatest year in the world this year. I mean, every year you get a new chance. And you know, we don't lever these things too much. 45% leverage, 50% leverage. You know, and even in the worst of times, people still buy oranges and grapes. It's at
Right.
50 cents a time. You know, they go in, they buy half a pound of grapes for $1. And you know what I mean? It's a pretty safe environment, right? And you know, we're struggling on cash flow a little bit now. We're still doing okay, but the ranches are escalating in value tremendously with this inflation spike we're in the middle of. So how I think about it is we make pretty good money every year, you know, and then we're getting pretty good appreciation every year on top of it. So, you know, it's a very safe place to be. And, you know, the other thing too is, you know, we grow amazing product. I mean, I love growing great produce that people enjoy. I mean, it's just part of my psyche, I guess, but I love that. And we ship Costco, Sam's, Walmart, you know, Kroger, you name it. We ship it up, you know, 30-40% over to Asia. You know, we're in a higher kind of, you know, echelon of quality. You know, we farm harder, but you know, for investors, you know, in our program, you know, we don't do we're focused on a little area around Fresno where the water's amazing, the soil's amazing, microclimate's amazing. We don't do a tremendous amount of transactions because it's hard to find what I want. But you know, and our minimum investment is 25K. So it's not a huge commitment to do it. It's all equity. You know, I'm a limited partner alongside everybody else. I'm a GP too, but I mean, I invest 10-20% in every deal. So I mean, it's like a family investing deal almost. You know, the people that invested with me 25 years ago are like family now. You know, I mean, they sure bitch and moan at me like they're family anyway. So they're very confident with me. You know,
Yeah,
so
well, I can relate to what you just said. I've got right now I have 47, and I'm sure you have more, but I have 47 private lenders, investors that invest in our deals, and over 90% of them have been with us more than 10 years,
yeah,
right?
it's a long time.
And they never want their money back. They never want their money back. They just want to keep, because I mean, where else are they going to get, you know, a nice rate of return like they get with us? Now, you said something in passing that I don't want the audience to miss. So I'm going to repeat it. You said your leverage is only about 45 to 50%. So let's make sure everybody understands what you just said and why this makes this a very conservative investment for your investors. So explain what you mean to, say, the novice investor that wants to get started and invest with you, right? What's 45 to 50% leverage and why is that so safe? I mean, you and I know.
Well, I mean, we just closed the transaction we just did. It was, you know, 4 million of equity, 2.9 million of debt. That was to capitalize the deal, about 155 acres, table grapes and citrus. And the citrus was Caracara navels, mandarins, like you know, go to the Cutie brand, and then some lemons. So, I mean, small loans, you know, you can cover those even in tough times. So, you know, I intentionally, all of the things I own, I've never levered up. I have very low leverage because I don't want to be at risk of losing an asset, which I've never done before, ever. So, I mean, my whole life has been this way. So the ag thing, we just want to, we could have borrowed another 20, 30% if we wanted to. I could get that. The banks would give me the money, but I want to make sure, and we're still projecting, I think, a 17 IRR, which means 17% of your money for the 10 years, after we have the reversionary value at the end. So, I mean, it's a pretty high return, very safe. Chance of losing your money are really difficult. I mean, we've never done it before, and I don't plan on doing it anytime soon. So, we could get a higher return if we wanted to lever it up more, but I'm content with how it is. So,
yeah. Well, and I'm so glad you shared that. The same way for me. I've been blessed in the deals that we do. We've rehabbed about 400, fixed and flipped or buy and hold about 475 houses here in Eastern North Carolina, and have every deal worked out the way I thought it might? No, in fact, none of them do. They either make a little less, or they make more, or they make a lot less, or they make a lot more. But here's one thing I can say, and you just said it as well, George, and that is not one of my private lenders has not received every penny that they were expecting to receive. And that goes back to what you said at the beginning of the show. Do what you say you'll do. You better know what you're doing, know your program, keep your reputation clean. And of course, you do that by doing what you say you'll do. But and what we're talking about now is not over leveraging the property. I mean, nothing would make me more upset, and it's never happened. I started borrowing private money in 2009, so I don't go back as far as you do, but I started in 2009, and it's just very, very important to me that our private lenders. Well, you said this at the beginning of the show. You said you're more concerned and you take better care of your private lenders and investors' money than you do your own.
Yeah, my wife's always mad about that. I mean, it's like, well, I mean, and we do fine, right? But I mean, I'm very keenly. I grew up a poor kid in Jersey, and my dad was a mailman. The idea of losing somebody who would give me the opportunity, would give me their money, right? I cannot lose that money. I've got to make the return for them. I just, I mean, I'm 64 years old and I'm still scared to death about it, right? I just can't do it. And I mean, and I mean, I think I could have done a lot more. I could have been bigger. I could have done a lot of stuff, but I mean, that is a guiding light for me. You know what I mean? I just can't do it. And I mean, I do have the confidence to take risk and buy things. And I mean, in the last deal we did, I mean, the $4 million, $3 million are people I know somehow, some way, that are, some are more important to me than others, obviously, because I know some a lot better. But I mean, it does take, as they say in Jersey, balls to take people's money and invest it in things, because it's always uncertain. I believe, it just always seems to work out if you work hard enough and you do the right job and you don't take advantage. I mean, it always has worked out, but it still is a little unnerving, the moment of truth for me. You know what I mean? I just can't have a bad deal. I just can't, it makes me crazy to even think about it. So, it's out of your control sometimes, I mean, I'll tell you a great story about this though. Years ago, I bought this really great portfolio of table grapes. I mean, the best land in the world probably for growing anything. And we did really well. I mean, we returned like almost all the equity in the first 4 years, I think. And then Donald Trump put the tariffs on, and that blew up the grape business, because the 30% we sent to China was pushed back on the domestic market, right? So unforeseen consequences happened, right? So when that happened, the grape thing just imploded. I mean, the prices went way down. We lost money. First time ever I've been in a situation like this. And anyway, so I needed to make a capital call, which I'd never done before, just never had to. And one of my other partners, not in this deal, but they're like, hey, these guys are going to tar and feather you. You're finished. They're never going to give you a dime. This thing's gone. And, and I just called everybody. I said, hey, listen, I'm really sorry. We've done really well on this. I'm still a believer in it, and I'll buy anybody out that wants to get out. But I really think people should stay in. It's the winter property. And, and I don't know what to say other than that. And every single person re-upped in the middle of a crisis, basically. Mm-hmm. And I believe that was because they trust me to do the right thing for them. And, mm-hmm. and they didn't want to disappoint me either. You know what I mean? I worked so hard on it, we're coming out of it and we're doing fine, but you know what I mean? It it was, for me, it was like a very like heart, I don't know the word, heartfelt moment almost, that people,
Mhm.
stepped up and did, because I couldn't do it all myself.
Sure.
And so
Well,
anyway, it
there's a
was really,
couple
really a cool moment for me though.
there's a couple of big lessons, a couple of big takeaways in what you just shared in that story. Number one is you didn't go bury your head in a hole and hide from the problem, which unfortunately some people would. Number two, you were totally upfront and truthful. And how about this word? Communicated with your investors and lenders instead of just trying to go over here and hide somewhere and hope that everything's going to get better. And so a big lesson right there is communicate, tell the truth. I mean, you just can never argue. You just can't beat telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty unforgiving when you don't. So
That's right. That's right. Now, Robbie Swindell is joining us here on the show. He says that he has a home in Napa Valley. Do you still invest there? And you do. You said you do. Robbie
no,
also,
we don't, we can't
you're not
afford
there
anything
anymore.
there. We
Yeah.
can't afford anything there now. I mean, it's like crazy.
So where are you investing now?
We're investing in just the Central Valley here
Central Valley.
by Fresno, California.
There you go. Awesome. Robbie says he's invested in a winery before his grandfather worked for Robert Mondavi, and he loves your example you just gave of reputational capital. But Robbie has a question, and his question is, and this is a very broad question, so you can answer it whatever way you like. And that is, Robbie says, what advice do you have for young investors in today's market?
I have three sons, 20, 29, 27, 25, and I hang around with them and their friends. They're all well-educated kids and doing pretty well. And, my advice is do something in real assets and get started now. Don't wait. And what I mean by that is, buy a freaking, duplex, buy a rental home, buy something and get started. My wife and I got married, she was an apartment broker and pretty good at it. And we had this thing, we were going to buy an apartment complex every year. And we didn't do that. We bought some, but we didn't do that. We got sideways and doing a lot of bigger deals with these bigger companies we were more like investors for private equity kind of thing. But, I look back on that, I tell kids today, I say, listen, buy a rental house every year for the next 25 years and you'll be a happy guy or woman. So that's what I would say. Get started, if you can't do it yourself, get 5 friends to do it with you and buy the first property and get going, because that's, the first one's the hardest. And once you see how it works, you'll want to do more and you'll get smarter and better, and get ready to roll your sleeves up and do some work too, because when the water heater breaks, you got to get over there and make sure it gets done and fixed or whatever. So
I love it, George. By the way, George, you shared as part of your background story, and I didn't mention it at the time, but I will now. By the way, you were mentioning that you were interested in mobile home parks back in the day and retailing of mobile homes. Well, you probably don't know this, but my father, Wallace Connor, who turns 90 years old later this year, he's still got 3 developments going that he's negotiating right now. He's building out a 375 single family house development. His company, Connor Corporation, was the largest retailer of mobile homes, manufactured homes in the nation up until he was the top from 1983 to 1988. And then unfortunately, the majority of all the consumer finance for mobile homes went away. And so that's when, I grew up in the housing business with my dad in mobile homes and manufactured housing. But I knew if I ever got out of that, I wanted to get into single family houses. But I'm 62 years old. My dad turns 90, and I pray I'll have half the energy he does when I'm turning 90 years old.
Well, my dad's 95 now, and it's unbelievable. He's slowing down a little bit, but he's still so healthy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. That reminds me of an article here in Raleigh, North Carolina. The main newspaper for the whole state is the News and Observer. We call it the News and Disturber. Anyway, there was an article on this father and son that still had this pretty large realty company in Raleigh. And the father was 93. The son was in his 60s. And the son is asking his dad, when can we retire?
My youngest went to Chapel Hill.
Oh, really? UNC?
Yep.
Love it. Well, here's the deal. People. I'm starting to get to the age, George, where let's say, Jay, are you thinking about retiring? I'm going, retire? What is that? What would I do? I don't watch TV. I don't play golf. I don't even think of this as work, George. This is just what I do, right?
I'm the same way. I agree with you.
It's just what we do. It's what we do. George, what an inspiration you are here on the show. Thank you so much for joining me. Final words, and then one more time, how people can learn how to invest with you.
We have our website, BravanteFarmCapital.com. We have built it to be an educational vehicle for people that don't know anything about agriculture or investing in agriculture. So if you go to that website and you just sign up, everything we do, and we're always videoing or picking or pruning or irrigating, or it's a good way to learn about it. Even if you don't want to invest in it, it's a great way to learn about it. There's a lot of video there explaining in detail how for instance, we pick oranges into a bin. It tells you the dimensions of the bin and how much it weighs and how much, it just all this minutia. It's simple stuff, but it gives you a real understanding and a lot of video on how it works. So, and then as we move forward, we're only going to do 1 or 2 or 3 deals a year probably. So if you like it and you study it and you want to be involved, if you sign up for our website, you'll get a notice that we're, raising money for what. You can look at it, something you're interested in or not. But anyway, we have a family of investors and family of non-investors who just follow us. And, we have a website. We ship oranges nationwide in the season and all kinds of stuff. So it'd be a fun thing to follow. And, if somebody really wants to get involved in it, they come visit us here and they see it up close and personal, how it works, they really want to do it or not. So anyway, it's a simple deal. We're user friendly in a big way. So anyway, BravanteFarmCapital.com is a great way to learn about what we do and see if you want to be part of what we do.
That's wonderful. I'm not going to call his last name, but Thomas just said, I'm all in. He's been buying timberland for a better America. He wants to come on with George now. So there you go. Thomas will be checking you out. So visit George and his team at www.BravanteFarmCapital.com. That's Bravante, B as in boy, R-A-V as in Victor, A-N-T-E, BravanteFarmCapital.com. And of course, you'll see that in the show notes. George, God bless you. Thank you so much, brother.
And also tell everybody to come to Napa Valley and come to Bravante Vineyards. we need all the guests we can get.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you, George. There you have it, my friend. Another amazing episode of Raising Private Money. I'm Jay Conner, the Private Money Authority, also your host. And we always really appreciate you subscribing, sharing, rating, and reviewing us and following us, because when you do, that allows us to keep having more amazing guests just like George Bravante. So if you're watching on YouTube, be sure and subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss out on any notifications that coming up. And again, on iTunes, Spotify, be sure and follow us. I'm wishing you the very best in real estate investing. And here's to taking your business to the next level. We'll see you right here on the next episode of Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.